Santa Cruz, California, February 1973. A thin rain blurs the motel windows, cliffs crumble under the waves. The locals close their curtains early, too many bodies found, too many wooded areas poisoned by fear. Even the dogs howl when the fog rolls in. A man walks barefoot along Highway 9, soaked to the bone. His name is Herbert Mullin. He talks non-stop, to voices no one else can hear. He thanks them. He promises to obey. The road becomes an altar, every curve guiding an unseen mission. The first killings seem random. A girl, a drifter, a priest. Shots to the neck, sharp blows, logic lost. Yet Mullin insists he receives instructions, not through radio signals or imaginary letters, but from the heart of the earth. He says the ground breathes, groans, warns. He hears the vibration before the quake. In his fractured mind, California itself whispers through cosmic frequencies. The dead call for more dead. He kills to prevent the final tremor. Later, when investigators open his notebooks, they find lines that read, "The earth begged me to save its children." Scribbles shake every page, circles, spirals, shapes carved in frantic pen strokes. In Santa Cruz, police are already overwhelmed. 2 killers stalk the same county, Edmund Kemper, the giant, and Herbert Mullin, the mystic of chaos. The press confuses their murders, but Mullin leaves his own strange signature: silence. Absolute calm after each act. No thrill, no spectacle. Just ritual appeasement. Neighbors recall his gaze, still translucent, as if he listened to something beyond everyone's present. He spends hours playing discordant chords on a guitar, convinced the noise soothes the earth's crust. When caught muttering alone, he replies, "Sacrifices keep the ground from opening." One evening he enters a church confessional. He doesn't pray. He speaks to the silence itself, then fires 2 rounds. Blood stains the blue glass. In his mind, that offering stilled a seismic surge. Faith, for him, has no face. It breathes through spilled blood. The investigation hits a wall. No clear motive. Yet the timeline forms an eerie rhythm. Each murder coincides with minor seismic activity recorded across the state. Some call it coincidence. Others feel the unease of something deeper, as though Mullin tuned into a forbidden wavelength. When officers finally catch him, he smiles. "I knew you'd come," he says. "The ground told me." His apartment is a miniature apocalypse. Topographic maps coded with numbers, news clippings about earthquakes, symbols burned into the drywall. Not the familiar pentagrams, but older tribal shapes. A spiral eye, entangled lines like circuits. Experts find no direct source. The patterns, though, resemble figures once drawn by Lovecraft, marks of the messenger of the outer gods. 2 psychiatrists study him. Both write the same conclusion: severe paranoid schizophrenia. Mullin describes an entity that speaks through weather. Whenever the wind sweeps down from the hills, he hears its command. When the ocean tide pulls back too far, he reads a warning. Every killing, he insists, is a prayer to keep the world alive. He murders to balance, not to dominate. His confessions unsettle by their internal coherence. No contradictions, no stutters. He calmly explains how they trained him for sacrifice. Humanity teeters toward ruin, he says. Only offerings of blood hold back the apocalypse. And always, always, the earthquakes. During trial, Mullin interrupts the judges mid-sentence. He declares that the jurors have heard the voice too, they are just afraid to admit it. "You prefer denial to salvation," he shouts across the courtroom. Reporters describe him as an inverted prophet, his eyes glittering with tragic fervor. In the courthouse hallway, an officer catches something the others miss. A small insignia drawn on the sole of one shoe. A 4-armed downward spiral resembling an inverted galaxy. Occult analysts claim it combines rare motifs from early 1900s San Francisco grimoires, exactly the same shapes Lovecraft referenced decades later. No proven link, yet the repetition feels wrong, like an echo through centuries. When the verdict arrives, Mullin bows, whispers, "You just saved California for 30 years." Silence again, the kind that feels like the edge of the world. Some investigators still keep their notes sealed, as though the words themselves might awaken something dormant. Inside the Santa Cruz archives, a single photo records his shoes marking, an eye within a spiral, looking downward. Years later, survivors of minor quakes across the region swear they've seen that same figure traced in dust, seconds before the ground moved. Mullin remains imprisoned, but the earth still trembles. There was a detail the investigators left buried. A line, almost invisible, ran across the map of murders, connecting forests, churches, cliffs, rivers. The alignment curved perfectly toward an old observatory above Felton. Coincidence? An archivist digitizing the case file noticed the route traced a curling symbol, like a letter from a forgotten alphabet. Local archives held a dust-colored book bound in cracked leather, The Outer Gods and Their Instruments, 1928. It catalogued secret cults in Depression-era California. On page 54, the very same mark appeared, captioned, "The Herald of the Void speaks through the Earth's pulse." The parallel felt impossible to ignore. Later, an acoustic analysis detected a peculiar anomaly. Around each crime scene, low-frequency recordings carried a rhythmic pulse, almost like a heartbeat. A sound engineer tried to reproduce it. The team played the tape twice, then destroyed it. They said a word emerged from the pattern: Nyarlathotep. Herbert Mullin had never read Lovecraft, yet his spiral eyes and layered symbols matched those tied to the messenger of the outer gods, an entity said to wear countless human masks, spreading madness across fragile minds. Witnesses in later interviews spoke of nightmares filled with gray winds and faces without pupils. The resemblance to Mullin's sketches was unsettling. Psychiatrists who re-examined his transcripts years afterward confessed to unease. One wrote, "When he pronounces the name, the temperature drops. The tape warps." All recordings containing that name were removed from public archives. An independent researcher from UC Santa Cruz retraced the steps. He discovered Mullin had visited an occult bookstore in the Mission District, owned by a man who remembered a polite figure obsessed with theosophy and Sumerian cosmology. One winter evening, Mullin had asked for a banned volume, The Music of the Cursed Spheres. No known copy exists today. According to old rumors, each edition opened with a blank page that darkened under moonlight. Folklore scholars describe Nyarlathotep as the only cosmic level being that actually speaks, a bridge between realms. Where other deities sleep, he converses, through dreams, static, wind. Mullin, drowning in psychosis, might have served as a crude antenna. Madness became a channel. A seismologist later compared the murder dates with his quake tracking logs. The matches exceeded probability. Every killing preceded a measurable tremor. Some came to believe that bursts of human psychic intensity, when aligned with magnetic faults, could trigger small distortions in both matter and mind, a resonance that summoned something ancient. The idea never reached formal publication, yet an FBI agent confessed a peculiar incident while cataloging evidence. The tape recorder started on its own. The batteries were dead. On playback, a single atonal hum was followed by a whisper, "Keep the rhythm." The label on that exhibit now reads Evidence D13, Restricted Access. Another uncanny coincidence. If you draw the murder sites on a star chart, they mirror the serpent constellation visible above California the night of Mullin's arrest. In Mesopotamian myths, that cluster signified the path of the herald, the route Nyarlathotep traverses when crossing into mortal worlds. Whether by delusion or unknowable design, Mullin had traced it on American soil. Residents of Santa Cruz still tell stories. One storm night, they heard a modulated voice carrying through the wind, rolling over rooftops like a broadcast. a single syllable twisting out of the gale, too soft to grasp yet strong enough to rattle the locks. Further inland, stones on the hillside trembled, as if vibrating chords were strung beneath the earth. Modern geomagnetic surveys show invisible fault lines intersecting exactly where the murders occurred. Researchers describe it as a natural energy lattice. Others call it coincidence. The pattern remains, lines crossing as if drawn by unseen hands. Rumor insists Mullin carved a final message into his cell's steel bunk before sentencing, a three-spoked spiral surrounded by inverted letters. Guards filed it off, fearing contagion of belief. But the etching reappeared weeks later on nearby metal surfaces, burned by static discharge. Prison staff still report odd nights. Flickering bulbs, radios detuned, phantom voices hiding inside static. One guard, later ordained as a priest, gave the simplest summary. Evil isn't always a person, sometimes it hides inside the structure of the world. Everything converges. What Mullin called the voice of the ground echoes the mythology of Nyarlathotep, the incandescent messenger wearing 1,000 masks, whispering chaos through wind, dream, and signal. The killer remains responsible for his choices, yet his ruins trace an old language repeating itself through time. The files stay sealed under federal order. Still, when the next quake struck Santa Cruz, a technician monitoring background frequencies heard the same hum as decades before, and beneath it, a breath that formed a single word. Nyarlathotep. The wind had begun to speak again. That voice shakes you. Wait until next time. The next story follows another prophet, one who carved apocalypse into the flesh of his followers under Lucifer's shadow. His name was Charles Manson,